They were best friends for over 20 years, until the day he whispered, "Please don't let this happen," as his bride walked down the aisle. Mason thought he knew Tyler better than anyone, until a toxic relationship nearly destroyed him. What would you do if your best friend begged you to stop his wedding in front of 200 guests? This gripping true story of friendship, manipulation, and one life-changing decision will leave you speechless. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real stories that will shake your heart. I met Tyler when I was 7 and he was 9, on a sticky summer day when the air buzzed with cicadas and possibility. Our friendship didn't begin with some cinematic moment. It was over a shared popsicle and a mutual hatred for math homework. From that day forward, we were inseparable. Every memory I have from childhood has Tyler in it. Laughing as we raced our bikes down the hill behind his house, standing shoulder to shoulder as we got yelled at for sneaking into the neighbor's pool or building a rocket out of cardboard boxes and nearly setting the backyard on fire. Tyler was the brave one. The first to climb the tallest tree, the first to talk back to a teacher, the one with wild ideas and even wilder plans. I was the one who asked, "Are you sure?" before we did something dumb, and then did it anyway because he asked. We balanced each other out. He made life feel like an adventure, and I kept us from falling completely off the edge. His mom used to say we were two halves of one brain. My mom used to pack us extra snacks because she knew if Tyler was around, one lunch wouldn't be enough. We had our own language, our own inside jokes, our own traditions. Every Friday night was video game night. Every July, we camped in the backyard and swore we heard ghosts. And every birthday, we exchanged the same homemade card, a crumpled mess of stick figures and jokes only we could understand. We promised, sometime around age 10, that we'd be each other's best person at our weddings, no matter what. We even made blood oaths with a safety pin and a lot of wincing. Middle school brought bullies and braces. High school brought heartbreaks, bad haircuts, and late-night diner trips, where we solved the world's problems over greasy fries and milkshakes. Tyler joined the track team and started dating girls who wore too much eyeliner. I joined the yearbook committee and wrote moody poems in my journal. But no matter how far our interests drifted, we never drifted from each other. When college came, we went our separate ways. Tyler stayed in state for architecture school, while I chased journalism across the country. Everyone said long-distance friendships never worked. But Tyler wasn't everyone. We called every Sunday night, no matter what. Finals, breakups, birthdays, nothing stopped us. Care packages turned into a tradition. Mine packed with snacks and sarcastic notes. His always including something handmade, like a wooden phone stand, or a sketch of a city skyline with our initials hidden in the windows. The years passed, but the bond didn't waver. When my dad died suddenly during sophomore year, Tyler drove 9 hours just to sit beside me at the service. When he got dumped by his first serious girlfriend, I sent him a playlist called Songs to Cry Into Your Pillow. He texted back, "You're the worst." I listened to it twice. After graduation, our lives started to take shape. Tyler landed a job at a sleek architecture firm in the city. I floated between freelance gigs, living off caffeine and late checks. He bought a condo with a view. I struggled to keep a cactus alive in a studio apartment with no windows. But we still met first Saturday of the month for breakfast at the place with the burnt toast and bottomless coffee. Some things didn't change. That's why I noticed when he did. It was subtle at first. A missed call, a late reply, a joke he didn't laugh at. I told myself he was just busy. But deep down, I knew something was off. Because when you've known someone that long, when you've memorized the rhythm of their laugh and the way they fall silent when they're hurting, you can sense the shift, even when they're trying their hardest to hide it. It started with a text, "I met someone." Just 3 words, casually dropped on a Tuesday evening, the kind you'd usually skim over. But something about it made me stop and reread it. Tyler hadn't had a real relationship in over a year. Plenty of first dates, some second ones, but none of them had lit that spark in him. So I replied, "Who is she?" And almost immediately, he called. There was a tight excitement in his voice, like he was trying not to jinx it. "Her name's Victoria. She's different, Mason. You'll see." A week later, I did. Tyler invited me to lunch, said Victoria was dying to meet me. I showed up 10 minutes early, only to find they were already seated at our usual table. She looked like she'd walked off a magazine cover. Sleek brown hair tucked perfectly behind her ear, high cheekbones, crisp blazer, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Tyler's arm was draped around her chair. But when he introduced me, she looked at me like I was a project she hadn't agreed to take on. The lunch was strange. Victoria did most of the talking. She interrupted Tyler constantly, brushing off our stories like they were silly distractions from the more important things she had to share. Her job, her gym, her yoga retreat. Whenever Tyler tried to laugh about one of our old adventures, like the time we got banned from the county fair for starting a water balloon fight, she'd pat his arm and say, "That's cute," before shifting the conversation back to her upcoming promotion. I watched Tyler's expression change throughout the meal. At first amused, then anxious, like he was afraid to say the wrong thing. Afterward, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was just nervous. Maybe she wasn't always like that. But things moved fast after that. Within 2 months, Tyler was canceling our breakfasts more often than showing up. "Victoria planned something," he'd say. "Victoria wants to try this new place. Victoria needs help with work stuff." I didn't say anything at first. I told myself he was happy, and that was all that mattered. But the signs kept stacking up. He started dodging phone calls. Texts became one-liners, delayed replies, excuses. He once missed my birthday dinner entirely, just forgot. I didn't hear from him for 2 days. When he finally called, he sounded tired. Apologized half-heartedly, said they'd had a long weekend and I didn't press. I should have. The next time I saw him in person was at his housewarming. Except it wasn't really his anymore. It was theirs. Victoria had redecorated everything. Tyler's bookshelf was gone, his Star Wars collectibles boxed up, replaced by neutral tones and abstract art. When I complimented a painting on the wall, she smiled and said, "Finally. This place looks like an adult lives here." Tyler laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that hides something. It was 3 months into their relationship when I realized I hadn't seen Tyler alone in weeks. Every time we made plans, Victoria showed up too or canceled for him. He started second-guessing things he once felt confident about. "Do you think I'm being difficult?" he asked me one night after a small argument with her. That wasn't the Tyler I knew. Then came the night he called me at 11:47 p.m. I still remember the exact time because I was half asleep and almost didn't answer. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "She said yes," he told me. I sat up. "Yes to what?" "We're getting married." I tried to sound excited, but the words caught in my throat. He didn't sound happy. He sounded trapped. A few days later, I got the invitation. Heavy cardstock, gold foil lettering, the kind of thing you save for a fairy tale. But inside was a note scribbled in Tyler's familiar scrawl. "I need you standing next to me, please." And that's when I knew. Something was wrong. Terribly, unmistakably wrong. The weeks that followed were full of quiet alarms, barely audible to anyone but me. Tyler had always been someone who lit up every room, even if he wasn't trying. He had this energy, calm but present, like a warm lamp in a dark space. But now, when I saw him, that light felt dimmer. Not gone, just flickering. At first I told myself it was just the stress of wedding planning. Everyone gets a little frazzled when they're picking flowers and napkin colors, right? But the cracks started showing. We met for lunch one afternoon, just the two of us, which felt like a small miracle, and I noticed the way his shoulders slumped. He barely touched his food, picking at the edge of his sandwich while checking his phone every 2 minutes. I asked how things were going, and he gave me a half smile. "Good," he said, but it landed like a flat note. Then, almost immediately, "Victoria's having a tough week. Work's been rough." He started telling me about how she'd lashed out at him the night before because he'd forgotten to buy oat milk, and I made the mistake of laughing a little. He stiffened. "It's not funny," he said, voice tight. "She just has high expectations. It's not her fault." I shut up after that. His birthday came and went with none of our usual traditions. No diner breakfast, no stupid matching socks. Just a sleek dinner at a rooftop restaurant where I was seated awkwardly next to Victoria's cousin, who spent half the night scrolling through her phone. Tyler barely made eye contact with me all evening. When I finally got a moment alone with him on the balcony, I asked, "Is this what you want?" He didn't answer right away. He just stared out at the skyline. Then he said, "Do you ever wonder if the decisions you make today are going to ruin your life tomorrow?" I was still thinking of a response when his phone buzzed. Victoria. He looked at the name, straightened up, and walked away without another word. I thought about telling his parents. I thought about confronting Victoria. But nothing felt like the right move. And honestly, part of me still doubted myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I just missed how things used to be. But then came the rehearsal dinner. It was held at a fancy venue overlooking the bay, all string lights and manicured lawns. Everyone looked polished, smiles wide, laughter too loud. But the air felt heavy. Tyler's parents, who had always been welcoming and warm, were stiff and subdued. His mother pulled me aside in the hallway and whispered, "He doesn't laugh anymore." I caught her glance toward Victoria, who was in the corner directing staff like a general preparing for battle. Later that night, I went outside for air and heard voices, tense, low. I stepped closer, hiding behind a hedge. "You're embarrassing me in front of everyone," Victoria snapped. "Just shut up and do what we rehearsed." Tyler's reply was quiet, but I could hear the apology in his tone. That tone I'd grown to hate over the past few months, the one where he folded into himself, made himself smaller. When Victoria stormed off and spotted me, she instantly smiled. "Tomorrow will be perfect," she said, voice sweet, eyes empty. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking of the old Tyler, the one who once stood on a cafeteria table to defend me in 8th grade when a kid dumped milk on my head. The Tyler who used to argue with professors, stand up to bosses, laugh like the world couldn't touch him. And now he was a shadow, bending under someone else's weight. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 7:12 a.m. It was Tyler. "Can you come early?" he asked. There was something in his voice I couldn't place, something desperate. I told him I was on my way, already pulling on my shoes. I had no idea what was waiting for me at that church. But I knew, deep down, that something was coming, something that would change everything. The church smelled like old wood and lilies. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, painting the pews in reds and blues. I arrived 20 minutes early, heart pounding, and found Tyler in a small room off the main hall. He was already in his tuxedo, standing stiffly in front of a full-length mirror, trying and failing to fix his bow tie. His hands trembled. His face looked pale and worn, like he hadn't slept in days. I stepped in and gently reached for the tie. "Let me," I said. He didn't argue. Up close, he looked thinner than I remembered, like life had been slowly scraping pieces off him. His collar hung loose around his neck, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. I asked, "Are you okay?" He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that only used the muscles in his mouth, not his eyes. "Just nerves," he said, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a silver flask. I blinked. "You're drinking already?" Tyler shrugged. "Helps with the jitters." I'd never seen him drink before noon in our entire lives. His parents arrived shortly after, his mother immediately fussing over his boutonniere, trying to hide the panic in her expression. His father hovered awkwardly in the doorway. When Tyler stepped out to speak with the officiant, his dad pulled me aside. "We've tried talking to him," he whispered. "Something's not right with that girl. He's not himself anymore." The guests started filing in. Most of them people I didn't recognize, colleagues of Victoria, business associates, carefully curated attendees. I took my place at the front, hands sweating, mind racing. Tyler walked down the aisle first, looking like a man headed for execution. He stood at the altar, fidgeting with his cufflinks, glancing toward the exit every few seconds like he was calculating an escape route. I tried to catch his eye, but he wouldn't look at me. Then the music began. The entire room rose in unison as the heavy doors at the end of the church opened. Victoria stood there, bathed in sunlight, her dress a cascade of white satin and beading, her smile sharp and victorious. She looked like a queen walking toward her throne. Each step echoed across the church floor, slow, deliberate, rehearsed. The crowd watched with admiration, with awe. But I watched Tyler. And then it happened. His hand reached out and gripped my forearm, fingers digging into my skin with a force that startled me. He leaned in, his voice a whisper only I could hear. "Please, don't let this happen." My heart slammed against my chest. I turned to him, saw the raw fear in his eyes, wide, glassy, pleading. Not cold feet, not nerves. This was something else entirely. This was a man drowning without a life raft, and I was the only one who saw it. Memories flooded my mind. Victoria checking his phone when he stepped away, mocking our old stories, isolating him from his family, from me. The tension in his shoulders every time her name came up. The way he stopped laughing, stopped deciding, stopped being Tyler. I looked at her again. Victoria halfway down the aisle now, smile still plastered on, like nothing could touch her. I looked back at him, my best friend of almost 2 decades, quietly begging me to save him. And in that moment, I knew. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I just stepped forward. One step, then another. I turned toward the officiant, and, with a voice steadier than I felt, I said, "I'm sorry, this wedding can't go on." The music stopped. A gasp rippled through the pews like a wave crashing into the shore. Victoria froze, 1 foot mid-step. Murmurs exploded around the room. Behind me, Tyler exhaled, a long, shaky breath that sounded like it had been trapped inside him for months. There was no going back now. For a moment, everything stood still. Then chaos erupted like a storm had cracked open the ceiling. Victoria's expression morphed from shock to fury in seconds. She stormed toward us, heels clicking violently against the floor, eyes blazing. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice sharp and high-pitched, bouncing off the church walls. Her father stood up from the front pew, demanding answers, while guests turned to each other in a confused blur of whispers and stares. Tyler stepped forward, still pale, but there was something different in his posture now, his shoulders squared, his voice low but clear. "I can't do this, Victoria." The words seemed to burn on the way out, but they were real. "Femme." She froze. "Excuse me?" she snapped, her smile long gone, mascara twitching with emotion. In the flurry of stunned silence, someone guided us into the pastor's office. It was the only private space we could find, though it did little to contain the storm inside. Victoria paced like a caged animal, flinging accusations. "You planned this," she barked at both of us. "You've been against me from the start. You think this is love? This betrayal?" But Tyler didn't raise his voice. He didn't apologize. For the first time in months, he just told the truth. "I haven't been okay for a long time," he said quietly. "You isolated me from everyone I care about. You criticized everything I did. You checked my phone while I slept. You made me feel like I was broken, and lucky you were willing to fix me." Victoria scoffed, but Tyler wasn't done. "You threatened to hurt yourself if I ever left. You told me no one else would love me because I was too much, too passive, too weak. I started to believe you." His parents were crying silently in the corner. I didn't realize my own hands were shaking until I looked down at them. Tyler looked at me, his eyes clearer than they'd been in a year. "I thought no one would believe me," he said. "I thought I had to go through with it." Victoria tried to defend herself, but her voice cracked. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, the sound echoing like thunder through the hallway. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Victoria spread rumors, online, through mutual friends, even to Tyler's workplace. Some people took her side, others stayed neutral, not wanting to get involved. Tyler had to move out of their shared apartment and back in with his parents. There were nights he didn't talk at all. Days when guilt gnawed at him from the inside out. But slowly he started therapy. At first, he called it damage control. But I could see the shift. He stopped apologizing so much. He started making decisions again, small ones like what movie to watch or what to eat. But they mattered. He laughed once during a game night with my cousins, and we all paused, stunned, like someone had just turned the lights back on. Months passed. Tyler moved into a new apartment, this time all his own. We celebrated by hanging up a crooked shelf and drinking too much wine. One evening he handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter from Victoria's former roommate. She apologized for not warning him and revealed that Victoria had targeted him after learning about his family's inheritance. She'd even found Victoria's journal, detailing a plan to get access to his assets post-marriage. Tyler shook his head. "You didn't just stop a wedding, Mason. You saved me." I didn't have words for that, so I just clinked my glass against his and watched the sunset from his balcony, grateful beyond expression. Later, I heard that Victoria had moved across the country and gotten engaged again, to a wealthy surgeon this time. Tyler sent him the roommate's letter anonymously. 2 weeks later, the engagement was called off. Now, Tyler speaks at men's support groups, sharing his story with others who thought they had to suffer in silence. His laugh is real again. His choices are his own. He's even started dating again, slowly, cautiously, but without fear. And me? I've learned to listen more closely to silences than words. Sometimes the loudest cries for help aren't shouted, they're whispered between breaths. If there's one thing this experience taught me, it's that love doesn't always come wrapped in kindness, and abuse doesn't always leave visible scars. Sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones suffering in silence. Emotional manipulation can be subtle, disguised as concern, cloaked in charm, masked by good intentions. But control, isolation, and fear are never signs of love. I learned that it takes real courage to speak up when something feels wrong, even if you can't fully explain why. Trust your instincts. Listen when someone's laughter fades, when their spark dims, when their world shrinks around one person. Sometimes, being a good friend means standing between someone you love and a decision that could destroy them, no matter how uncomfortable or dramatic that might be. We live in a world that often tells us to mind our business, to not interfere. But real friendship, real love, it shows up, especially when it's hard. It risks being misunderstood, judged, even hated, because protecting someone's peace is more important than protecting your reputation. And if you're the one feeling trapped, if you're the one whose world has gotten smaller, whose joy has gone quiet, please know this: you are not alone, and you are not weak. Asking for help, walking away, saying no, those are acts of bravery, not failure. Thank you for listening to our story. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear your story too. And if this resonated with you or someone you care about, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. This channel is all about real stories that matter. You never know who might need to hear this next.